But before we talk about township development, I always like to clarify what a city is. Cities are not maps, are much more than that. Those cities are not beautiful pictures and images, hygiene images, like these are like the one of Cape Town and Greenpoint. Cities are not iconic buildings. Normally and often we forget townships, and the cities, they are also part of the cities. Townships are part of our cities, and they are cities within. But most importantly, cities are people.
Local government is an area where the fusion between political and administrative office is much more acute than in provincial and in local government, especially around the appointment of municipal managers and the staff of municipal managers, where the role of councillors and in particular the mayoral committee in those appointments is overplayed and creates massive instability in municipalities. It means going forward, and this is my challenge to the city support program and to local government, people working in the local government field. I think really one of the key areas of reform, and this is I appeal to Salva and those of you in the space, is to start thinking around institutional reforms in the local government space, which again begin to better delineate between political office and administrative office as a condition of development. Because if one doesn't crack this nut, I'm afraid in 10 years' time, you're still going to be pondering over why many of your projects are not getting traction.
So we will agree, townships are very complex, but they also interact with the wider urban systems, which are complex in themselves. So how do these different systems interact with each other needs what I would say an area-based programming. And we try to kind of research through FCDO research funding what are the different benefits and success factors for area-based programming to work. And one of the top benefits that we can see is that it definitely improves well-being. It creates better outcomes across the different sectors because you take a multi-sectoral approach within an area. But what really actually helps is multi-agency contribution and making sure that the KPIs and outcomes are attributed to every single stakeholder who's involved.
To also, as we focus not just on how we underwrite and resource some of our ideas, but that we also ensure that that is followed by a knowledge agenda that is able to recognize that much like townships have been marginalized, so too have the economic activities in the townships been marginalized from academic, intellectual, and other forms of scrutiny that can inform policy. So
there's been a number of recommendations that have taken place in government through various processes. Of course, the DMRE 20-year review is one thing that we lent on very strongly. And so in that instance, the establishment of a public service commission for local government is one of the forms that came out quite strongly. Reviewing the funding model as it relates to local government was also another one. And then also just the recognition that it does need to be stronger intervention.
So how do we actually stimulate local economy so a young person can find their job, ideally within the community they live in?
Welcome to the exhibition component of today's program. And what we've got here are a series of 44 posters. And we're using the posters to tell the story of the Township Economic Development Project, which has been implemented over the last 4 years since 2020. And I think the key thing to recognize is that we are responding to a state of crisis. Now, it's very important as you walk through this exhibition to bear in mind that our mandate as a technical support team was to work with municipalities to strengthen their capabilities to implement township economic development. So in looking at this exhibition, having the forefront of your mind, whose responsibility is it to do this work?
While we talk about dark forces, simultaneously within these spaces are some light forces. These are visible actors that are putting their own kind of effort and risk in trying to stimulate and invigorate the township. One of the key responses in this thing is around safety.
Let me maybe start at the beginning then. I think one of the issues that I have been reflecting on today is that in some ways TED, or Township Economic Development, is probably a misnomer, because I think what we're talking about isn't just economic development. I think we're talking about this in a broader sense of development. And then I think if we narrow and focus this purely on things we typically see as economic, i.e. sort of business, economic activity, I think we're missing the complexity of the space that we're looking at. In essence, these are spaces that were deliberately designed to be non-functional, non-integrated, and it wasn't just about the nature of the economy, it's the nature of the space itself.
Leverage growth in a way that delivers for marginalised communities, we need to be holistic. Recognise the role of the private sector and the importance of better partnerships between public, private and civil society.